Just ahead of their first spring training game, the Toronto Blue Jays are looking poised to make a trade. We don't know what that trade's going to be, but one notable report from Shi Davidi revealed that they could be in the market for an upgrade via the trade market. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, we don't know what the trade market is shaping up to be because this offseason has been pretty weird. We've had to wait a long time for a lot of free agents to sign, had to wait a long time to see some notable trades as well. And Nick, I don't know. I don't know what direction this is going to head in for the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't know what they're looking to upgrade on the trade market or the free agent market. Whatever it is, it's exciting that baseball is upon us, and the Blue Jays seem to be in good spirits, and they're very confident in having some bounce back seasons from the guys that struggled internally. But another addition couldn't hurt, and we've seen a couple of minor league moves being made over the past few days here with Eduardo Escobar and then Daniel Vogelbach being brought in. But maybe the Jays, who haven't had too much luck on the free agency market this year, can go out and get a notable guy on the trade market. What do you think about that?
Yeah, we've been talking about how they need one more bet, and it seems like that might be happening. Quick reminder, hit the subscribe button before we get into it. But let's just get into it right now. Report reveals a trade could be coming, according to Shi Davidi. Now, this dropped yesterday, and it's very interesting the way he words it. And Peter, you kind of mentioned it there earlier. He's talking about the depth. Of course, these are among the minor league moves they made. They said depth is great, of course, and there are no guarantees with the minor league deals. That's the beauty of them. Yet between the surplus of players vying for similar roles, a full 40-man roster, plus upward pressure from prospects who may soon to be deserving of a big league opportunity, the Blue Jays look like a team poised to make a trade before opening day. Now, when a guy like Shi Davidi says this, you take it pretty seriously here. I think that the Jays, I mean, we've been talking about it, if they stick with, even without the minor league guys that they've had, if they continue to just kind of stock up on these players, they're going to run into a problem regarding their prospects getting called up and being logjammed. So I think a trade is going to happen. I think a trade needs to happen. And I don't know the magnitude of it. We'll get into a couple of guys that we think could be traded soon, but one of their infielders needs to go. And this was even before they signed Eduardo Escobar and Daniel Vogelbach. And I think Escobar is ultimately going to win a spot at the very least on this team in the major leagues once they start in March.
Yeah, I think he should, just because of his versatility and his switch hitting ability, and the fact that he's got power. He's got power that he's displayed just as recently as 2 seasons ago. So if he can find that form, he would be much more valuable to the team than, per se, Santiago Espinal. But one thing that really stood out to me, and you didn't mention it here, Nick, is that Orelvis Martinez, he's one of those prospects that you're talking about that could potentially be blocked by another acquisition or is being blocked right now by someone on the current roster. He's taken reps at second base thus far in spring training, and that's very interesting to me because the Blue Jays have Espinal, who's a second baseman, Davis Schneider, who's a second baseman, Kevin Biggio, who's a second baseman, and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who can play that position as well and plays all around the diamond, similar to what Orelvis Martinez is probably going to do in his big league career. So this is like really weird to me that they're creating an even bigger logjam at second base, which is probably the least of the Toronto Blue Jays' concerns heading into the season. So Scott Mitchell of TSN came out with that report the other day, and he thought it was very interesting as well that they're putting him at second base, even though there are so many options at that position on the current roster right now. So that, to me, having one of your top prospects who's real close and knocking at the door on the major league level at second base, a position that you have so much depth at, when you have other holes that need to be filled, like third base, let's say backup outfielder, to have him pinned to that one position thus far, I mean, that to me signifies a trade as well.
Yeah, and then you look back to his comments 3 days ago now, and he basically hinted that if they make any move at this point, it will be through addition via subtraction. Obviously, his quote was, at this point, additions would be of significance. Would mean some level of subtraction. So it makes all sense in the world. And Peter, I think, again, we've touched on this a few times. I think it points to Santiago Espinal. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on an Espinal trade or any other players you think could be on the move ahead of opening day before we move on to the next topic here. But, I mean, I think it's Espinal, and I don't know what we get back, but maybe they package Espinal and a prospect for a bigger-ish name guy. Do you have any quick thoughts on that before we move on?
I guess Espinal is probably the odd man out here. Not only does he struggle to hit with any sort of power. He's got the lowest ceiling of any of those players that we've mentioned. Davis Schneider, I believe, is poised for a breakout season. I think if you give him regular at bats, he's going to shine and he's going to get on base at a really good clip. Yeah, the strikeouts might be a problem at times, but he makes contact and he makes hard contact when he does connect. So I want to see him get regular at bats over Espinal. I think the way Biggio closed out the season last year, he's kind of solidified himself a spot, whether it's at third base or at second base or some outfield every now and then. And you paid IKF a lot of money. I mean, 2 years, $15 million. It's not something to laugh at. So that's serious money. I'm sure the Blue Jays intend to play him, considering that they signed him for 2 years and to a decent amount of AAV. So that just leaves nowhere else for Santiago Espinal, and maybe that 40-man roster spot is more valuable than what he can offer to you on the field. So maybe the Jays look at it that way. Maybe they want to get rid of him, free up that 40-man roster spot so they can sign on Eduardo Escobar or Daniel Vogelbach or make a trade for someone, maybe not in the Espinal trade, but someone else that they trade for. They can add him to the 40-man roster. So there's a bunch of ways to go about it, but yeah, Espinal is probably the name that I would have circled on the way out here.
Yeah, the odd man out, especially with, I think the IKF kind of put the writing on the walls for him because IKF can do everything that he does, and they're paying him for 2 more years at 15 or so million. But let's move on now to an interesting thing that came out today, and this is big for Pearson, or could be big for Nate Pearson. Peter, he has a new pitch that he is working on for the big leagues, and it is a splitter. He's working to add a splitter. Pete Walker says that is still a work in progress. We'll see. Otherwise, lots of praise from Walker. I think he's in a really good place, have a great spring, and really help us out this year. Do you have any thoughts on Pearson adding a splitter and Pearson potentially his impact going forward? We haven't really spoke about him in a while now. It's been a very long time, so figured I'd bring him up here. Any thoughts on Pearson and potentially adding another pitch? I guess it's third or fourth pitch, depending on where you consider his curveball and things.
Yeah, I think it would be his fourth pitch because he's got that four seamer, he's got the curve, the slider, and now you're adding in that splitter. Yeah, you need a pitch that moves downward and that kind of gives them a different look. That looks like a fastball coming out of the hand. So I like it. Who knows if he's struggled with control? He's struggled to stay healthy so far in his big league career, and I don't know how much he can really offer to the big league team. We saw him really come up last year and have a great stint, and then he started to struggle. He got hit around in that one outing, got sent down, and never really recovered. So he seems to be a bit more on the fragile side when we're talking about the mentality and just being able to roll with the punches at the big league level. So having an extra pitch at his disposal could help him out with that, but it's all about the mental with Nate Pearson. He just hasn't been able to string together good performance after good performance and hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's been unlucky, and he's just been unable to sustain his performances once he has been on the field. So I just want to see consistency from him. He's got the stuff. No one is doubting that. You can add as many pitches as you want, but if you can't put it together over the course of a few outings consecutively, then it just won't matter. I think he's got electric stuff. He can be a big-time arm in that bullpen, but if he can't stay on the field, I don't really see him helping out this Blue Jays team much this year.
Yeah, and they have a very good bullpen. I think he's probably the biggest wild card out of that bullpen, or even out of the pitchers that we have for a while, aside from maybe Alek Manoah and a couple other guys. But it'll be interesting to see how Nate Pearson
does. Who do you take out, Nick? Who do you take
and
out?
That's the biggest question. Yeah, probably no one. They probably don't take it anyway.
Trevor Richards. Trevor Richards is a guy who has 1 year left on his deal. He's not going anywhere because he was good in whatever role you put him in last year. I mean,
Jimmy Garcia,
Genesis Cabrera, yeah, Jimmy Garcia, who I'm not a big fan of, but there are guys there that he has to leap over to win those jobs, and he just hasn't done that. I don't know who would you take out, if anybody, for Nate Pearson at this point?
I don't think he makes it out of camp. I think they let him play it out, see how he does, and then if Trevor Richards go back to how he was in 2022, then maybe they let him go early. But yeah, very interesting conversation to have, and answer that question in the comment section below as well. But that will wrap it up. Let us know what your thoughts are on this report. Very interesting one, especially because it's from Shi Davidi. He does not drop these very often, so Jays are poised to make a trade, and we've been hoping and kind of predicting that was going to happen. But that'll wrap it up. If you want to check out our video from yesterday, click on your screen now, and we will see you tomorrow.